Good evening, it's Jules Wyman here from juleswyman.com. What happens when you get lost on social media? You forget the time. So I have just been whizzing around on some of the social media pages that I'm on and follow, just looking at what sort of like the common thread on things at the moment and how people come across and what they talk about, and yeah, got lost in it. But what I'm about to do, whoops, I can't, it's not just glaring at the screen. I'm actually going to see if this is coming up live. If whilst I've got my head down, if there is anybody that is coming on live, do drop down in the box and say hi. And I'm hoping that this time that the that it will work, because last time it didn't work, and bless you, whoever it was that was on was busy typing away and I just could not see it at all. So I'm trying to find, there we go. Is it on there? Yes. And I am going to put it on there. And I've just shared that, hopefully, to my story. Anyway, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's not working, so I'm going to give you my attention instead. Apologies to those of you who have watched on the recording and like, the woman's not even looking at me. So good evening, Jules Wyman here. How are you doing? How is your evening going, or morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world? Because I know we have some people that join us from the other side of the pond at various points. So very quickly, I've got loads I would like to talk about this evening on this topic, and great question posed by somebody who watches this regularly. So I hope you'll be on here at some point, Rob, and be able to chip in. For those of you that are watching live, please could you do me a quick favor and just type hi in the comments box, because I want to see that it's working, because I had such a problem last time with it, and it was only when I closed down that I could actually see the comments. So if you could just type hi or good evening or whatever you prefer, bonjour if you really want to, and then afterwards do a thumbs up, so I know that there's a comment gone on there, because then it'll give me an indication as to whether I can see it or not. You don't have to interact any more than that if you don't want to, but that would be really helpful. Obviously, if you're doing it on the recording, I welcome you saying hi, but my whole point of somebody putting hi in right now is for me to know that I can actually see the comments. So I'm not sure if anybody's done it or not, because nothing is coming up. So there may be another. Let me have a look. I'm trying to have a look. I'm not ignoring you. See, look, there's me. I'm trying to see. I'm about to do. Whoops, there we go. I'll tell you what I can do. Ah, there we go, Jules. It's what do you call a collection of jewels? Good evening, Jules, and good evening, Caroline. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's just that then I can see that the comments are working, because last time, which actually seems like about a month ago, but it was only 2 weeks ago, I've just been doing so much, I think, that it just feels like a much broader time spectrum. Yeah, loads of people were commenting, and I'm asking for people to comment and thought no one was commenting, and you were. So if you were one of those people, I apologize. I just couldn't see it, but I can this evening, which is great. So very quickly, if you've never joined confidence conversation before, then welcome. It's lovely to have you here, whether you are watching live or on the recording. It's joyous to have you here. And what I would invite you to do is join in as much as you would like to, as long as it's safe for you to do so, because that's the whole point of this. It's a conversation. It's not meant to be me as a lecturer giving you information, although sometimes that is how it happens, because it's quieter on there, but that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is that it's an interaction. So share your thoughts, comments, insights, questions, light bulb moments, whatever they may be. And don't wait to be invited. Do that at any point throughout the conversation. And the same with, do that whether you're watching live right now or whether you are watching it on the recording, because even if you're watching on the recording, I will come back, and because I get notifications like I would do with any other thing on Facebook, I do come back and comment and interact with you, although it's in the typed form, not in the verbal form like it is right now. Excuse me. So Same with everything else on Facebook. Please share. The whole point of me doing these Facebook Lives is one of my ways of giving back, because the videos stay on here. They also go to YouTube. So hello to those of you who are watching on YouTube. But they are about you. They're about me sharing some of the insights and learnings I've had. And who knows, planting a seed, giving you the opportunity to I don't know, take it on board, question it, ditch it, find something else, whatever works for you. So I'm going to be looking down quite a lot, because I've got a lot of notes, more than I do normally when I've got a topic. But the question that Rob posed, and I do hope, thank you so much, Rob, I really appreciate this. The question that he posed I thought was really interesting, and there's a number of different ways that we can look at it. And as I've been going through it today and been looking at the different options, really, there were so many that I'm trying to narrow it down so I can give some succinct answers. That would be a first, hey? But give some succinct answers, but also give a couple of ways that you can start looking at this and thinking about this in a different way for yourself. So you may or may not want to grab a pen and paper, completely up to you. There's not so much of the questioning that I've done in the last few episodes for you to sit and write or even type in, but there's definitely some stuff here for you to think about. And this is a reminder that at any point in any of the posts on, whether it's my regular posts on the Confidence Garden page, except it's not called the Confidence Garden page, hasn't been called the Confidence Garden page for about 2 or 3 years. On my Jules Wyman Confidence Coach page, let's try that one again, that this actual question came up in relation to another post that I did. But because Rob knew that I did the Facebook Lives, he said about this being a question on Facebook Live, which I thought was fantastic. So that's why I've used it. And I do think it's a great topic. And I think it's important for you, I would love you to recognize that you can ask a question at any point. And if there's a way, or if I've got some insights or resources or thoughts on it that might spark this conversation, then you can chip in at absolutely any point on any of the posts, or you can DM me so that you can join in this conversation. And and the whole point is about participating and having this conversation, and more specifically about happiness. And that's what I want to talk about. So let me read you a kind of snapshot of what Rob was talking about. So Rob's question was, why is it that humans only seem happy when it's materialistic? So the context that he then gave a little bit more of is that he was talking about that his mood was low for most of that week, until the morning that he knew he was getting up to receive his new car. And he said, I think he said something like he was up with the birds and dancing around and happy and joyous because his new car was arriving, and had that question pop into his head of, okay, I've been in a low mood all week. Why is it suddenly now that my new car is arriving that, ta-da, I'm all jolly and excited and all that sort of thing? And I thought that this, one, I think it's a great question to think about, but I think at this time of year as well, specifically because of the materialistic focus that the holiday season, Christmas and all of that jazz can bring with it. But also I think that there is and can be, this is my own personal experience anyway, a pressure to be happy during Christmas, to be, full of the joys, and, it is the most wonderful time of year after all. But that's why I just thought this was brilliant. I didn't want to wait till, well, it probably would have been possibly the end of January for an open forum, which is what Rob suggested it for. But I thought I'd talk about it now. So I would love to know, at any point, you can type your answers into this, but I would really love to know why you think it is. So Rob's actual question is, why is it that humans only seem happy when it's materialistic? So as I say, that was in relation to him receiving his new car. and I'm not talking out of purpose because it's on the page, you can see that. So before I go into any of this, or whilst I'm going into my thoughts on this, what do you think? Why do you think that humans seem, he has said only seem happy, but they seem happy when it's materialistic? What do you think? And I'll give you a quick insight into a couple of snapshots around my thoughts on this. So the first thing that I do think about and remember when it comes to happiness, and in relation to the materialistic side of things, is that when we buy something, and it can hit people at different points. So it might be at the the anticipation of buying something that you might experience this, or it may be as you're taking the thing up to the checkout, if you're doing the checkout, or even as you're just about to do the buy now button, or when you've hit the button or actually exchanged the thing over the counter and then walking away with it. Or even if you have it is something that you've ordered and then waiting for the anticipation of it arriving. At any point along there, the brain does get triggered with something called dopamine, which is a drug which can get triggered off when people, through addiction, it's a pleasure drug, or a pleasure. I'm actually not sure if it's a hormone or whether it's a chemical. I'll have to check up on that, or if somebody knows, then please let me know. I'm referring it to a drug. It's a natural drug that's within our bodies, and that's why I've had a few people referenced before in some of the trainings that I've done that dopamine is as, if not more, addictive than cocaine. And as somebody that used to use cocaine, I know how addictive that is, but I also know how addictive that dopamine can be as well, because I've experienced that a lot. So I think in a very snap answer, that could be one of the reasons why I don't think it's the only time that we seem happy, but I think that's one of the reasons that we seem happy, is because we're going to get that hit, that excitement, that thrill of getting the thing. So that's one of the things. But I think that there's also the, and it depends on what it is. And I used to experience this a lot when it comes to clothes or a new outfit or something like that, is that I had associated how I looked with my self-worth. So therefore, if I looked good, in my view, because I was wearing a new jumper, for example, it's not new, but if I was wearing a new jumper, then I'd be kind of like, oh, feeling all happy because I've got this new jumper that I want to wear. But the part of the reason I was feeling happy would be because I've associated my identity with that and my self-worth with that. Give me some thumbs up if this is making sense, by the way. Engage and let me know. And I don't think that just happens on the small ticket items such as a jumper. I think it happens on the big ticket items too. So whether it be a car or even a house or even a holiday. And I think this is then where social media can kick in, because it's the keeping up with the Joneses, or the look what I've got, some thumbs coming in there that it's making sense. Thank you very much for whoever that was. So they're the two first things that I would think about, get you to think about, is the dopamine side of it, but also that whether we have associated our worth, our identity has become part of that process and part of that thing, that thing. Oh, my lovely new mug, or whatever it may be, we can become attached, so much so that it's interesting. I had a conversation with some clients the other day around grief, and was talking about how we can end up associating things to the person, so much so that then we become kind of protective over that thing, because we've got memories associated to it. Now, we don't really need the thing to trigger the memory, because if the memories are there, we can bring them to the fore whenever we want to. But it's interesting, the stuff and the happiness that we associate to things. And I think that's a lot of why people don't let go of stuff. I'm probably at the other end of the scale of being an addictive declutterer rather than an addicted hoarder. I love a good declutter. I love getting rid of things, making space for the new things. I've just been doing that in the office today with a load of paperwork. Just went through, found a load of paperwork, about that much, that I was like, yeah, I actually don't need that anymore. So straight through the shredder, it was gone. So they're two of the things that I think we need to be careful of. And I think that the majority of people in some way, shape or form have a low self-worth. They may not describe it in that way. They may refer to it as having low confidence or low self-esteem, or being anxious or being nervous, not feeling like they're enough, feeling inferior or inadequate. You know, there's a lot of different ways that people dialogue the same thing, really, which is about their self-worth and how they perceive and treat themselves. So I think that we can get caught, if I'm not feeling good about myself, then, you know, if I go out and buy a new thing, then I'm gonna feel better because I'm gonna get the dopamine hit. And also, if I've triggered that, if I've connected that new thing with being part of me, my identity, then that kicks that off as well. But what we're not realizing is that, yes, the dopamine here is a natural phenomena that goes on physically within us. However, it's our thinking that then creates any other emotion or any other any other emotion that happens with that, and how we're describing it. So something that can help you where that's concerned is around first things first. And I am certainly, this is not rocket science, I'm pretty sure that you will have heard this in some way, shape or form in the past, and specifically in the past few years, with the conversation around mental health being so prevalent, that a gratitude list or appreciation is a big part of not necessarily connecting with happiness so much, but I do think it helps with giving a different focus, giving us the opportunity to really appreciate what we do have in our lives, no matter how small that is. And for some people, that may be, I got up or woke up this morning, and that's the extent of the appreciation that they can get to. Whereas others, you know, I look around me and yeah, there's things I'd love to renew within my home, and yet I've got a home. How amazing is that? I've got a computer that I'm able to speak with you, and I've also got my mobile phone, and all these other things. So if I'm wanting to look at it from a materialistic perspective, there's so many things that I can talk about that I appreciate. But equally, I could then turn it back and start appreciating me and who I am and how I show up and my process, my development. I had a wonderful conversation with a colleague today, and both of us were talking about honesty and about how we radical honesty as well, and that we appreciate that we're both able to have that radical honest conversation with each other. So, you know, these are appreciative things that you could be doing and starting to think about that can help you engage with happiness even more. I think part of the challenge around happiness is that it has been manipulated for us to believe that we have to gain something or do something in order to be happy. It's like we have to have a reason. There has to be a justification for it. Let me know if this is making sense, by the way, and comment away. Let me know what your thoughts are. So the common question that gets asked that I kind of twitch at is, in relation to happiness, is, you know, what makes you happy? You know, well, come on, what makes you happy? And people, you know, dancing or singing or running or being with my kids or cooking or reading or my work And this list will ensue of what makes somebody happy. But it's interesting that we forget that it's got to be how we are thinking about the thing that we're doing, and more specifically about ourselves in relation to the thing that we're doing, that it's that thinking that's creating the happiness. It's not the thing outside of you. So for example, you know, I love being with my friends. I love my work. They don't make me happy. That happiness is created through how I'm experiencing and describing that experience with the people that I'm with. Does that make sense? So we need to be mindful of that, because otherwise, if we stick only with the question of what makes me happy, there's a reliance on us having to do something or buy something, Rob, in order for us to feel, and I keep doing that because I don't believe that it's a true feeling, that we feel happy. So I'm going to make an assumption, and I'm sticking with your car analogy, well, not analogy, because it was true. So my assumption is, obviously I don't know what was going on at the first part of the week, but when you've got that thing building up, and the night before you go to sleep, and then you've woken up with a lark because you're like, I'm going to get my new car, I'm going to get my new car, I'm going to get my new car. And what was fascinating, Rob, if you do watch this, and I so hope you do, is that you didn't just say that your new car was arriving, is that you listed out exactly, and I can't remember what it was, but you told me the age and the make of the car that you were getting. So my assumption is that there was an association, an identification with, look at me, I've got I can afford her, or I've made a sensible choice to get her, because, you know, what we have chosen to drive, for example, and buy and then drive, we've chosen for a specific reason. So whether that is the guy or gal who drives down the highway, street, whatever it is, with in a sports car, you know, there's a statement, there's not always, but the majority of the time there's a statement and there's a reason to it. For the majority of people, that will be their purpose, and it's not a carte blanche rule that it's a certain thing that they're compromising for, but it's or compensating rather, but there's a reason to it. There's a purpose, there's an identification. So my assumption, or my question, Rob, would be for you to think about, what do you think that getting that car was going to mean about you? What do you think you were making it mean? Obviously, if you want to type your answer in when you do watch this, fantastic. I totally get that you might want to start thinking about that for yourself. But it's important for us to realize the attachment that we have to these things. And when we have that level of association, there's going to be a fluctuation of what we call happiness, because those things come and go. And let's face it, we've all done that thing of buying, for example, the new jumper, and worn it a couple of times, and then it becomes, once it's gone through the wash, or been worn once, or once the key people have seen it, then it becomes another part of the wardrobe. And then, you know, a day, week, month, year, however long it takes you, later it's like, oh, I need a new jumper because that one's old now, I've worn it once. Or we're constantly in that cycle then, which works well for commercialism and capitalism, but don't get me started on that one, because I don't think it's appropriate for this forum. But the one thing, I'm very conscious of time, and the one thing that I do want to make sure that I leave you with is something to think about, rather than the what makes me happy question. My question, there's kind of two really. My questions for you are to thinking about, if you, and it depends on how you might choose to, what's the word I'm looking for? You may choose to label it sadness or depression or low or whatever it may be. Thanks, Geeta. Thank you for engaging, my darling. I'm glad that you agree. If you, by the way, for anybody watching and you want to understand your health, Geeta Taylor, the lady who's just put a comment below, is somebody that you need to engage with. Hopefully we're going to do some Facebook Lives interviews and stuff next year, but she is phenomenal. Anyway, back to the plot. So the question that I'm going to offer for you to think about is, however you've labeled it, sadness, upset, low, depression, anxiety, whatever it may be, if you're looking to be happy, rather than looking externally to yourself, whilst that is beneficial, it's not the whole package. And to ask yourself, how am I not happy right now? How am I not happy right now? And to think about it in two ways. I don't know why I did that. Think about it in two ways. So the first way that I think is easier for people to access is to look outside of yourself. I don't think that's the right answer, but if it's an in, then go with that first. How am I? And be careful, because I'm framing it up as a how question as opposed to a why question. So your answer can't start with because. So how am I not happy right now? How am I not happy right now? So look externally. How am I not happy right now? Okay, well, it might be because there's a pile of paperwork on the side that needs to be sorted, or because the table in front of me is a mess. It doesn't matter. But look outside of yourself initially if that's an easier way in. My invitation, though, is for you to do the second part of this as well, which is because just looking at that is not necessarily going to be the sole answer. So the second part of it is then to look internally and inquire for yourself, how am I not happy right now? And think, witness, listen to the thinking that's going on internally. And just notice what's happening. And if you can, imagine that you're a bystander listening to that thinking. Don't engage with it, just listen to it. Because my assumption is part, if not all, of the reason why you're not happy right now, or how you're not happy right now, is going to be with what's going on up there. But if it's easier to initially engage with the external stuff and then do the external stuff, but make sure at some point you have a look at those thoughts, what's going on there. And the second part that I use for myself when I'm going internally is, what am I assuming? What am I assuming? And I know both for myself and with clients, working with clients one-on-one specifically, but also in workshops, is, okay, so what am I assuming right now is around, it might be that what I'm experiencing right now is forever and I'll never be able to get out of it. Well, that's an assumption. That's certainly not a truth. Or it may be around that I perceive I haven't got any control and that's why I'm unhappy. Or it may be that I'm assuming that I am a bad person because I haven't phoned my aunt to say thank you for my birthday card and the present that she put in there. It could be whatever it is in there. But when you can start to hear those assumptions, that will give you a clue as to the disruption and the internal suffering that thinking is going to be causing, because assumptions aren't fact, they're assumptions. And what then can help you from there is start to look at things factually. So what's going on factually that you could do differently? How might that work? What might you do around that that's going to make a difference? So I realize that I've given a number of overviews around this. This is a huge topic and it's such a beautiful question, Rob. I'm so grateful that you posed it. So if you've got further questions, then please do, in relation to this or outside of this, then please do pose them below. Lovely. So Geeta's put, I would apply this to food too, on why people eat unconsciously. Yeah, absolutely. Not that I've ever related to that, because I never really eat unconsciously. But it's so important to look at it, that it's not just one thing, it's many things of how these things, can I say things more in one sentence, how they map across. And you've possibly heard this statement before, and I find it very useful, which is how I do one thing is how I do many things. So if I'm being lazy in one particular area of my life, I can pretty much guarantee I'm being lazy somewhere else, and therefore somewhere else, and what is the impact that's going on there. So all of these things will, especially in relation to food. Food's such a wonderfully big topic. Maybe that's what we need to do our Facebook interview on, Geeta. We'll see. So, and you're very welcome. I'm more than happy to promote you, darling. I think you're amazing. So I'm hoping that this evening has given you some food for thought, pardon the pun. That's the whole intention around it. If you have found this of value, if it has given you a little bit of an insight, then please do share it. Please do like and let me know what's your takeaway, or what are your thoughts on this evening's conversation. And if you do have any other questions or anything that you want me to specify more or dive down into, then chuck it in the comments box below, or DM me on here, and let's have a conversation around it. And as you've seen this evening, you know, Rob posted this question, and I've just mentioned Rob. I haven't mentioned his full name. I haven't mentioned, you know, his inside leg measurement, and nothing I've shared from his comment isn't on the page anyway. So it's not like it's a private thing that I've messaged. So if you'd messaged me privately, I would probably just say your first name, and that would be it if it was required. So feel free to message me directly or put your questions on here. I'd love to know how you get on playing with that. Well, okay, well, how am I not happy right now? What am I thinking that's causing my unhappiness? I was listening to somebody recently, and they said that all humans are seeking relief. And one of my favorite quotes is the Adyashanti quote, which I know I've shared with you before, which is a sure way to suffer is to argue with what is. And I think those two things correlate, is that the suffering or the upset, the low mood, the sadness, whatever we want to label it as, is that we're seeking relief from that. And that's why things like shopping, that materialistic side of things, pull us in, because we think we're getting relief from that sadness or that low mood, when in actual fact all it's doing is a short-term cover-up. It's that short-term gratification. And actually what we need to do is not necessarily deep dive into our past, but at least let go of the thinking and the misunderstandings that we have around that, in order to be able to move forward with much more grace and ease anyway. So thank you very much for joining me this evening. I really appreciate your company, your thoughts and your insights. Whether you're watching this on the recording or live, do comment away, and I hope to catch up with you soon. Well, definitely speak to you next Monday. And yeah, have a great week. And in a world where you can be anything, be kind.